Thank you for staying with us. And of course, this week, the battle for traditional throne of Kano State rages on. The Kano State government has insisted that the 16th Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi II, remains the Emir following Thursday's ruling of the court. This is just as the government ordered the State Commission of Police to remove the 15th Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero, from the Gidan Nasarawa Mini Palace for demolition of the building. Of course, the state's Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, Haruna Issa Deri, accompanied by the Secretary to the State Government, Bafa Bichi, gave the order. The Deri said Bayero should be removed from the government property where he's trespassing. He added that government had already concluded arrangements for the general reconstruction and renovation of the property, including the demolition and reconstruction of the dilapidated wall fence with immediate effect. And of course, I still have Supriala Membre, policy analyst here in the studio with me, and Samson Joshua still hanging out there. I still have Obi Undukwe, a publisher, the Bib newspaper. I know I might have one or two thoughts from her as well. So, Priya, very quickly, let's get our thoughts from you. It appears that, what's your summary of the current fiasco in Kano State with regards to the tussle at the Emirs Council now?
Well, it goes back to the dethronement of Muhammad Sanusi by the former governor, now the chairman of the All Progressives Congress, as Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje, and now the return of Sanusi and the removal of the Emir. You know, but at the end of the day, no matter how we want to look at it, I always say, you know, let's just be factual. The state has the right to recognize a traditional ruler, whether we like it or not. All this legality running about here, back and forth, and the rest of that, you know, it won't heed any results. At the end of the day, the court judgment has come. But again, let's also look at the fact that regardless of whether the court judgment is right or not, the state government have to obey the judgment currently as it is. The court order said they should return to status quo ante bellum, which is the way it was, you know, before this, before Sanusi came in, which is the Emir of Kano, Abdul Bayero, should be recognized as the current Emir. Now the state government is saying that though the court did not make any pronouncement on the validity or invalidity of the law. But the court said that pronouncement was not made just to allow for, you know, the judgment, the case that is being held at the appeal court to, you know, proceed. But the court said that the actions taken in pursuant to that amended local government, that amended emirate law, which the current administration amended, should be halted. And everybody should revert back to status quo ante bellum. Another issue of status quo again. You know, and I would like to chip in this, and this is for the lawyers and the, you know, the NJC. I think it's high time, you know, we start judgments maybe retranslated. You know, because everybody's reading meaning into judgments. This one is translating here, this one is translating here, you know, and the rest of that. And lawyers will always stick to various opinions, you know, that kind of thing. So I believe that with time, I think there's a need for us to look at the way judgments are being pronounced, and if there is need for maybe to be reinterpreted in plain terms, maybe we'll get to a point where we have to start implementing judgments like we are in primary 4. You go here, you go here.
Okay, like breaking it down to simplify it.
Simplify, yes.
All right, Samson Joshua, I know you're still hanging out there quickly. Now, the judge reinforced its earlier order, which was for status quo to be maintained, just as Supriala did mention. Now, the governor still went ahead to hand down a letter to reinstate Sanusi as the emir. What does this say about the respect for the rule of law in the country? And how can we restore the honor of the judiciary?
Speaking about restoring the honor of the judiciary, I would say that the judiciary has allowed itself to be manipulated by politicians. And it's quite a sad sight to see. And honorable justices have dedicated themselves to letting politicians chop favorable judgments as they wish, contradictory judgments, popping left, right, and center. And that's what has landed us in this series of mess all over the country. And that is why a governor can decide that he wants to obey a law, and or he wants to disobey a law because he feels that a law, a judgment can be gotten in his favor from a particular judge with true wishes, and he feels that the judgment that has been gotten against him was also given in the favor of the opponent. Maybe some money has been paid, a price for it. So I believe that the aspect to Kano State, that the judiciary should check themselves and ensure that they come to a time and a place where they stand on their own and do not allow politicians to have the leeway of using them to their own advantage and disadvantages. So the Kano State should, judiciary should sit up and ensure that they do the right thing and there is peace and the powers as it is returned to the state government to recognize this traditional ruler in the state.
All right, now let me quickly ask you this. Now the governor has now ordered the demolition and reconstruction of the mini palace that Bayero is staying currently. I mean, do you think this is going too far?
That's a government property, and the government has that liberty to decide to demolish or build or renovate their property. As it were, when Sanusi II was removed as the emir, he quietly left. There was no tussle with what is going on here. I think that if the government wants to renovate the place and everything, I think Bayero should, take the side of honor and step out. And while he pursues his removal in court, there should be no grandstanding to ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I think I still have Obi Ndukwe standing by, publisher, the Beam newspaper. I'll be very quickly. I know you might want to have one or two thoughts concerning the issue in Kano. Now, the peace of the people in Kano should be paramount. Now, what's the way forward from your perspective right now with the way things are going on around there?
Well, it's very simple. Where somebody is in court asking for his fundamental human rights, he ought also to understand that there's also a fundamental human duty. And that fundamental human duty is to ensure that there is peace in Kano State. I mean, your personal right or your personal inheritance or whatever should not override the peace of the state. And for the courts, I think there's a lot of mixture, a lot of contradicting rulings there. A situation where the courts, gave an order after the government had already amended the law. It's just like what we have in Rivers State, where people have been already sworn in as caretaker chairman, and then suddenly RISEC now says you want to conduct elections. Well, how do you look at that? Now, also, the same court has also said that status quo should be maintained. Is status quo going to be maintained? The other party says, the government says, the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction. Just like in Rivers, where it's also obvious that it's only the Federal High Court that has the jurisdiction to declare seats of assembly members vacant. And then you see a judge going ahead to give a ruling or a judgment which contradicts the relevant sections of the law. So for me, going forward in Kano, I would suggest that the emir who was dethroned can just give peace a chance. Even if he's going to fight for his human rights, he could just step aside, allow the government that is empowered, to enthrone and crown the emirs to do their thing. And then if at the end of the day the courts decide otherwise, I think that Emir Sanusi, with all due respect, is a gentleman, because by the time when he was dethroned, he stepped aside, he refused to pursue anything, even though he knew that he was adequately enthroned as emir. So I think that for Kano State, the issue not to snowball into something. We already have fragile peace in this nation. I mean, the emir should be a statesman and just step aside, pending whatever. And of course, he can also decide to make that sacrifice for the good of the people. That's why I say, do these people really fight for the people or for their own personal interests? Your personal interest cannot override the interests of the state.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Supriya, very quickly, I understand that things are looking quite heated in that part of the world. Now, you just did cite the fact that the governor himself probably didn't respect the order of the court at the moment. So what do you think should happen moving forward to actually, stop whatever crime? Because obviously the coming days will be very interesting. What do you think, what do you anticipate with the way things are going now?
Well, If you look at the sequence of events,
Yeah.
first of all, you find out that the state government now is talking about demolition. That's state government property.
Okay.
Nobody can stop the government. But the emir has to,
Okay.
consider the peace. That's the Bayero has to consider the peace of Kano and pursue his seek legal redress, maybe outside the state or within the state, but maybe from his private residence and the rest of that, rather than throw the state into needless crisis.
All right. Well, before you go, just in 30 seconds, I couldn't extend questions to the others. The cholera outbreak out there right now, what do you advise with health?
Well, hygiene. Hygiene, very, very important because, cholera is a bacteria and bacteria that causes diarrhea. Diarrhea, all those bacteria is from, you get bacteria from dirty environments. And again, this also looks at the local government. If you look at the cholera outbreak in Lagos, the clusters, the island, those are local government, Itiosa, Ikoyi, and the rest of that. All those areas, local government administrations have to take up sanitation, sanitary
and reorientation of the people,
of the people, and also food vendors.
All right. Thank you very much. And that's our show for today. I want to thank Obi Ndukwe. She's a publisher at the Beam newspaper. Obi, thank you very much for tuning up and coming around today.
Thank you. Thank you
very much. I have Joshua Sampson as well, his policy analyst. And of course, I have Suprela Membre right here in the studio with me. Thank you very much for turning up. And that's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Mark Otabo. Until next week, goodbye.